The start of the Baltimore Ravens season has been an absolute nightmare. After a rough opening, with humiliating losses and mistakes in almost every part of the team, the Ravens look more lost than ever. The defense, which has always been the team's trademark, is vulnerable. The offense is struggling with injuries, and errors just keep piling up game after game. And it doesn't stop there. Key players like Lamar Jackson, Kyle Hamilton, and Roquan Smith are out, leaving the team without leaders on and off the field. To make matters worse, heavy losses, like the brutal blowout against the Texans, have pushed the Ravens into a hole that's nearly impossible to climb out of. Stats don't lie. Teams in this situation rarely make the playoffs. So the big question now is, can the Ravens stop this slide, bounce back, and keep the hope of a successful season alive? Or is this campaign already lost, destined to be remembered as one of the franchise's biggest disappointments? The answer will start to take shape over the next few games, and you're about to see all of it in this video. This rocky start is a shock to a lot of people. It's not like the Ravens have never faced adversity. Just last year, for example, they started 0-2. The difference is back then, the team bounced back quickly, found their rhythm, and went on a winning streak that led straight to another division title. There was confidence, answers on the field, and it was clear that squad knew exactly how to turn the page. This time, the story is completely different. The Ravens lost the season opener, but instead of showing that trademark fighting spirit, the team seems to have sunk even deeper into problems. It's like the mistakes from Week 1 multiplied, growing stronger with each passing game, leaving the team unable to regain its previous balance. That sense of security, the feeling that things would naturally improve, never showed up. It hits even harder because fans are used to seeing the Ravens as a solid team, even in tough times. When that foundation disappears, confidence goes with it. Every loss feels bigger than it really is because there's no sign that a turnaround is coming. And the longer it takes to react, the harder it becomes to withstand the pressure coming from both outside and inside the locker room. The result is a start to the season that raises concerns not just for what's already happened, but for what's still to come. It feels like this Ravens squad hasn't inherited the resilience of last year's version, and it raises serious doubts about how far this team can go if they don't find their footing soon. It's not just about losing games. It's about losing the identity that's always made this team competitive. And that loss of identity becomes even more obvious when you look at what's happening on the field, a drop in performance across multiple areas at the same time. The most striking thing about this start is that the problems aren't limited to one area. The Ravens don't just have one wound to heal. It's like the whole body is weakened. The offensive line, which should protect the quarterback and open holes for the run game, is failing at crucial moments. That limits the offense and forces Lamar Jackson, when he's on the field, to play under constant pressure. It's hard to build confidence when every play feels like a fight for survival. On the other side of the ball, it's no better. The defense, once the pride of the franchise, has lost the solidity that made the Ravens a feared opponent. Historically, Baltimore built its reputation on tough, physical, nearly impenetrable defenses. Now, what you see is a vulnerable unit, unable to stop even average offenses, far from the standard the NFL has come to expect. This defensive weakness is a major warning sign that the team's foundation is crumbling. These combined failures create a domino effect. The offense can't sustain long drives because the line fails to protect. The defense can't provide support because it gives up yards and points too easily. When both sides of the ball are underperforming, the margin for error disappears. And this is exactly the kind of scenario where blowout losses happen, even against teams that shouldn't be a problem. The Ravens have always been a team that commands respect, even when the offense isn't firing. But this year, that confidence is gone. Opponents know they have real opportunities to exploit mistakes and control the game, and that puts Baltimore in a delicate position. They need quick solutions to prevent the season from slipping away before even reaching the halfway point. And if all of that was enough, the Ravens are also dealing with a factor that can completely derail any team, a wave of injuries hitting the roster right at the start of the campaign. On top of already struggling on the field, the Ravens have had to cope with injuries that change the course of any season. And we're not talking about backup players or rotational guys. The players missing are the pillars of the team, Those who carry not only the technical load, but leadership in the locker room. It's like the team lost its spine before it even got rolling. Lamar Jackson's absence hits in every way. He's not just a starting quarterback. He's the engine of the offense, the piece that brings plays to life and can turn unlikely situations into scoring opportunities. Without him, the offense loses creativity, loses rhythm, and becomes predictable, something opponents don't take long to exploit. When offensive identity disappears, the pressure on the rest of the team grows even more. Defensively, the hole is just as deep. Kyle Hamilton and Roquan Smith symbolize the Ravens' physical, intelligent style. With them out, the unit loses communication, intensity, and the ability to set the pace against any opponent. Suddenly, the defense that was once a benchmark can be beaten easily, and it eats away at the confidence of the players trying to hold things together. This wave of injuries doesn't just take key pieces. It crushes morale. Every week seems to bring bad news, and that kills the group's momentum. There's no time to adjust for one absence before another hits, and the result is a patched-up team, lacking consistency and any real chance to build chemistry. With each passing game, hope feels more and more out of reach. And it was exactly in this weakened, struggling state that the most painful loss so far came, the blowout against the Texans that exposed all the problems at once. The loss to the Houston Texans wasn't just another game on the schedule. It became the symbol of the Ravens' collapse in 2025. Losing happens in sports, but getting blown out 44-10 by a team that historically isn't even consistent, that's way beyond a simple stumble. This game exposed every weakness the team has at once, from lack of energy to an inability to respond on the field when things started falling apart. The lopsided score tells part of the story, but what really stood out was how the Ravens seemed to give up. Execution failed, communication broke down, and there was a clear lack of intensity. The team looked lost, with no answers and no alternatives, allowing the opponent to dominate every phase of the game. That's the opposite of what you expect from a franchise built on resilience and competitiveness, even in the toughest situations. This loss left Baltimore with a 1-4 record, a mark that already eliminates almost any margin for error for the rest of the season. Beyond that, it created a massive emotional gap inside the locker room and across the organization. This defeat wasn't just heavy on the scoreboard. It hit psychologically, raising real doubts about how far this group can go without completely falling apart. In past seasons, even in painful losses, there were signs the Ravens could rebound and get back on track. But against the Texans, the opposite happened. A team that seemed to lose its way completely, lacking confidence and unable to reinvent itself mid-game. This feeling of fragility made it clear that the problem isn't just temporary, it's structural. And this is where a single fact makes things even more worrying. History shows that teams in this situation almost never bounce back. When a team starts a season 1-4, the stats become a powerful enemy. According to CBS insider Jonathan Jones, only 10 out of 126 teams that started in this exact scenario managed to make the playoffs. That means the Ravens currently have less than an 8% chance of clawing their way back into contention. It's a brutal number, turning every game from here on out into a do-or-die situation. These incredibly low odds aren't just cold math. They reflect the harsh reality of the NFL. A team in this spot doesn't just need consecutive wins. It needs a mix of luck, rival missteps, and, in the Ravens' case, quick returns from injured players. It's like rowing upstream against an ever-stronger current. Every week wasted just makes the goal feel farther away. For a franchise used to fighting at the top, facing the scenario is a shock. The Ravens have always been considered natural playoff contenders, but now they have to accept that they're part of the same group of teams that historically can't recover from such a disastrous start. This shift in reality shakes the players' mindset and doubles the pressure on the coaching staff to find quick, effective solutions. Still, it's not impossible. History shows there are exceptions, teams that defy the odds and turn lost seasons into remarkable comebacks. The Ravens would have to cling to exactly that kind of story to believe in a turnaround. But it takes far more than individual talent. It demands leadership, discipline, and above all, an immediate shift in mindset. And that's where all eyes turn to John Harbaugh, an experienced coach who now faces pressure like few times in his career.
All right, we're already past the halfway point of this video. But before we continue, I noticed you haven't left a like yet. It's really important because it helps YouTube keep showing you my content so I can keep bringing you the best news about the Baltimore Ravens. So go ahead and hit that like button. It's free and it really helps. Thanks. Now let's get back to it.
John Harbaugh has always been seen as one of the most consistent coaches in the NFL, someone who could keep the Ravens competitive even in years when the roster wasn't the most talented. But in 2025, the pressure on him has reached a whole new level. The frustration with this start isn't just about losing. It's about how the team has been losing. Harbaugh has made it clear in interviews that he's unhappy with the lack of basic fundamentals, something that should be non-negotiable for any team under his leadership. The problem is, no matter how much he demands it, the team isn't responding on the field. The defense, which should carry Baltimore's identity, looks disorganized. The offense, even with Lamar Jackson at the helm, seems lost amid execution errors. This lack of cohesion raises real questions about how much Harbaugh can still get out of his players, or the locker room simply doesn't have the energy to react under his leadership anymore. This isn't about questioning the career of a Super Bowl-winning coach with multiple successful campaigns. But the NFL is a brutal business where the present weighs more than the past. Harbaugh now faces a tough task of proving he can still reinvent the Ravens, that he can restore the discipline and winning mentality that defined his best seasons. Every game without signs of life only increases the pressure, both externally and internally. Right now, the coach needs to find quick solutions, even with a roster limited by injuries. It's a test of creativity, leadership, and, above all, the ability to keep the team's confidence alive amid chaos. If he fails, the season could slip out of the Ravens' hands before November even arrives. Ironically, the key to any hope of a comeback might lie in the schedule ahead, a path that, on paper, looks far more manageable than what the team has already faced. If there's a window for the Ravens to believe in a turnaround, it could be in the upcoming games. So far, Baltimore has navigated a brutal stretch, facing opponents who are among the league's strongest. In fact, half the teams that made last season's divisional round have already been on the other side of the line of scrimmage. It's no coincidence that the losses were so heavy. The level of competition was sky high from the start. But moving forward, the landscape shifts. The Ravens still have 12 games left, many of them against teams that don't inspire the same level of fear. Within the AFC North, the division doesn't look as intimidating either. The team's only win so far came in this context, against the Cleveland Browns, a matchup that showed that even in crisis, Baltimore can still assert itself in its most familiar territory. This could be a critical factor. The AFC North has always been tough, but in 2025 none of the direct rivals seem unbeatable. The Steelers and Bengals are still chasing consistency, and even the Browns have clear limitations. That means, despite the terrible start, the divisional race isn't completely out of reach. Gaining momentum in these matchups could quickly change the narrative and put the Ravens back on the map. Of course, relying solely on an easier schedule isn't enough. Baltimore needs to find itself on the field, fix the defense, rebuild confidence in the offense, and above all, stop self-sabotaging. But the schedule could offer exactly what the team needs, a series of games against less dangerous opponents, where mistakes don't cost as much, and each win can slowly rebuild morale. The question is whether the Ravens will have the strength to seize this opportunity, or if the snowball of losses will keep growing, erasing any chance of a comeback. Because if they don't stop the slide now, this season will be lost for good. More than relying on stats or hoping for an easier schedule, the Ravens need to face reality. Either they find a way to stop the slide now, or the 2025 season will go down as one of the franchise's biggest disappointments. The problem isn't just losing, it's how they've been losing. Execution mistakes, basic errors, and a clear lack of confidence make every loss feel bigger than it really is, feeding a cycle that only gets worse. This kind of snowball can be deadly. Once confidence disappears, players start hesitating, adjustments fail, and even the simplest opportunities slip away. Baltimore urgently needs to reclaim its identity, the one that always kept this team among the league's most competitive. That means getting physical on defense, discipline on offense, and above all, showing energy on the field. Something that was completely missing against the Texans and needs to appear immediately in the upcoming games. Another crucial factor is injuries. Nobody expects every player to bounce back instantly, but the team needs to at least stabilize the situation. If new absences keep piling up every week, consistency becomes impossible. Playing constantly patched together prevents the team from building chemistry, and without that, any attempt at a comeback is compromised. The Ravens need their medical staff to give Harbaugh at least a little breathing room, so he can work with some stability. The challenge now is twofold: physical recovery and mental recovery. Bringing back Lamar Jackson or Roquan Smith won't help if the rest of the team steps on the field thinking the season is already over. This is where leaders, coaches, and players need to come together to show that there's still something to fight for. Because in the end, the Ravens are walking a fine line between keeping their playoff hopes alive and watching the season crumble completely. And it's precisely that thin line that sets the stage for the big question looming over the team. What will Baltimore's fate be from here on out? The Ravens are at that critical point that defines any season. Either they fight back or they let the collapse take over. The difference between a historic comeback and an early failure is slim, but crucial. Every game from here on isn't just about wins. It's about the psychological impact each result will have on the team. One victory can fuel hope. One loss can feel almost irreversible. The roster still has talent, no doubt about it. Players like Lamar Jackson, Kyle Hamilton, and Roquan Smith have the ability to change the course of any game. But talent alone isn't enough. Discipline, focus, and cohesion are essential. The Ravens need to reclaim the identity that has always made them a constant threat in the AFC, finding the competitive spirit that was lost in those early defeats. On top of that, the clock isn't stopping. Every wasted week decreases the chance of recovery and ramps up the pressure. The team will have to capitalize on the relatively easier schedule ahead, but they can't fool themselves. Any slip-up could be costly. The margin for error is minimal, and the Ravens have to be flawless if they want to turn these unfavorable stats into real hope. Ultimately, this is the story of the 2025 season. A team used to fighting at the top is now forced to battle against its own history, trying to prove it can still compete despite rarely seen adversity. Every game is a test of endurance, intelligence, and heart, and every play will determine whether Baltimore keeps the playoff flame alive or watches the season slip away. In the end, the line between reaction and collapse is razor thin, and the next games will tell whether the Ravens can turn things around or if this campaign will be remembered as a dark chapter in franchise history. Baltimore is facing a critical moment. The season star exposed failures across the board, injuries to key players, and losses that have drained any confidence the team had. Every defeat increases the pressure, and each passing week shrinks the margin for error. It's a moment where the team must react fast, reclaim its identity, and show it can still compete. What's clear is that recovery doesn't rely on talent alone. Discipline, cohesion, and leadership are just as important, especially in a roster so shaken. The schedule might offer some opportunities, but every chance will be crucial. The Ravens need to stop this snowball of losses now, because time is running out and every mistake could cost way too much. So, what do you think? Can the Ravens still turn the season around and fight for the playoffs, or will this disastrous start to find a dark chapter in franchise history? The answer will unfold week by week, and only the field will show who still has the strength to fight back.
And if you, just like me, are passionate about the world of football and want to learn more about the Ravens' legacy, don't leave this video without sharing it with that friend who is also a Baltimore Ravens fan and will love this content. See those video suggestions on your screen? The first one was handpicked just for you, and the other is a recommendation from YouTube itself.